Hello friends, I'm glad it's about consciousness geometry. Today I show how consciousness is running the tetrahedron from the inside, but beforehand let us take some logical steps. It is necessary to postulate that consciousness made the beginning. Then it is residing at an undefined location, and from an undefined location you cannot move. The result is that consciousness is running interpretations in row, changing the perspectives, and this way creating structures with the illusion of movements. This is the movement framework. The type of movement is a reflection movement, and it is looking like this. Consciousness is following the structure by changing the perspectives to avoid chaos. Chaos is the opposite of order. Storage is a kept order, which is the precondition for a system. And to get a flexible system, it is firstly necessary to build a structure through changing the perspectives, then to create energy through resonance oscillations to keep the structure, and thirdly to destruct the structure by leaving the frame and this way dissolving it. After dissolving the frame, it will be reconstructed with light speed. This type of ongoing enables consciousness to renew structures. These principles are not new. Let me give you a nice example. In the poem One and All, Goethe wrote already in the 1820s that everything has to be dissolved into nothing if it wants to stay in reality. So he was describing exactly this construction-destruction mechanism which is enabling a superior balance while consciousness is pushing against itself, and this way creating storage by holding the order. Now, rechecking these principles against the tetrahedron, it is necessary to put together the starting situation. So let's go shortly into this puzzle. First of all, consciousness is interpreting itself as the absolute nothing, because there is nothing. But the fact that consciousness can interpret itself at all shows that there must be something, and this something is interpreted as the absolute everything. So now we have two interpretations, which are different in reality, but identical in the extreme. And this paradox is, so to say, the ignition plug to start the motor, because with these two interpretations, we are dealing with the question of to be or not to be, 0 or 1, true or false. And this is a logical, mathematical, digital, computer, quantum approach, but geometrically viewed. These two interpretations are simply representing a non-visualized 0D frame, reflecting each other in a resonance oscillation. Let's assume here the most powerful, everlasting energy source without location. Everything outgoing is a fraction of this energy source, and as this is non-visualized, we first have to illustrate it as a black screen. Now we have this 0D frame. Consciousness is collecting energy to the point of collapse, and it takes the exit by interpreting the absolute nothing as 0 point. This is creating a perspective, a starting point for consciousness energy leaving the frame. And this star or 0 point has the function of an eye. So the 0 point leads to visualization. And the relation between the 0 point and the absolute everything is also a self-to-self relation, because the absolute nothing is just differently interpreted. Then we jump over some things and define that this eye is able to mirror and to turn itself. So if the eye is focusing on a point, then it creates an infinitely big wall, reflecting itself rectangularly against the wall in the spot. And if the eye turns around, it creates a sphere. Perhaps you can imagine this going into a dark room. However, this wall sphere thing is a necessary precondition. And if now the focused wall is restricted through other walls in the cube structure, then we get the pyramid shape with a 0 point and the wall. And this pyramid is the tool for consciousness to move in the cube structure. I hope this makes it a little bit more understandable why the pyramid represents itself a self-to-self relation, because in the extreme, the absolute everything and the absolute nothing is identical. Now we have the sphere and the wall, which are overlapping and running together as combo. Yes, this is our college hat. And this is the starting position with the 0 point and the point of intersection between the sphere and the wall. Now we reflect and get 2 points, 2 spheres and 2 walls. And adding a home house for a moment, we can see that consciousness is bridging the Planck length and the Planck second in one image sequence regarding the active timeline. We defined that the Planck length is a square diagonal and the Planck second is the length indicating the time unit. Yes, just like a watch where you can see the watch hand is moving from A to B, or the crystal of a crystal clock moving from A to B to indicate the time unit. And finally, even Albert Einstein said that time is a fourth space measurement, not a fourth dimension, but a space, a three-dimensional or geometrical measurement. So now we can compare second and meter geometrically, and that means that our 2 walls here are opening a time cube structure, which is later on showing a cuboid structure in the pre-stage. What's happening here is that consciousness is constructing the space cube structure by traveling through the time cube structure. Yes, here we can implement the cuboid, and most probably this exact rectangle has a symbolic meaning. On Pixabay I found a nice picture of Chinese medicine pupils, and they are wearing a hat with a rectangle on their heads. Well, this is going back to one of the first Chinese emperors, Huangdi, who was living about 6,000 years ago, was reportedly connected to gods, was able to speak directly after birth, then became a military, fought successfully against a big flood, and wrote also a medicine book. This emperor presented itself with this hat, with a rectangle. And if people present themselves with a geometrical figure on their head, then this most probably has a symbolic meaning. By the way, the Windows 10 logo shows exactly this rectangle structure. So this mirroring is running in an infinite loop, while consciousness is collecting energy, then searching for an exit shortly before collapse, and there is no outside view. Only the view from the eyes are available. Now, the 2 spheres are creating a circle of intersection, and as this is an energy circle, let's call it rainbow, and the exit is a random point on the rainbow. Now the focus on this point creates the wall. This causes a line of intersection between the 2 walls, and this green line here is infinitely long because the walls are infinitely big. Then we continue with the reflection, and now we have 4 walls, 3 spheres, 3 rainbows and 2 green lines. Then turn back to the 0 coordinate to complete the loop of the triangle. Now we have 5 walls and 4 lines. The next reflection leaves 6 walls and 6 lines. The triangle structure now is complete, and therefore here we have a possible exit from the triangle loop, although consciousness has not returned to the starting position yet. Then connecting the green lines, et voila, it appears a crystal which is located rectangularly against the triangle. This is nice, and we keep it in mind. The triangle is creating a resonance loop in which consciousness can collect energy. And at a certain point, it needs to take an exit to avoid collapse. In this situation, we really like to continue with the area 6, but unfortunately, the area 6 point is not a cross point. Yes? Let's integrate for a moment a home house with an area 6. Now this green dot at the bottom would be the target. But we cannot reach this point because it's not a cross point. So we have to go to the top, completing the tetrahedron. Yes, and from the outside we can see the cross point very clearly here in the front. And this is where consciousness is targeting to. In the back, we have a second cross point completing the double tetrahedron. But this one is leaving the home house. And on the one side, this is important because it opens a trisectional cube structure. But on the other side, we want to follow the area 6. So turning to the top, then reflect. Now there are 4 spheres and 6 rainbows. Here's the equator view. Then we take out the new sphere and the new rainbows, making transparent the first 3 rainbows. And now we can complete the tetrahedron, continuing with a turn to the left. And every move is viewed from the inside of the tetrahedron. Then reflect. Now the second triangle is complete and the second crystal shows up. Then turn, reflect, turn, reflect. The third crystal is ready. And because of running the first 3 triangles, the fourth triangle is also complete. This creates the blue crystal here. So the whole tetrahedron structure is complete, and therefore this is a possible exit. But to complete the loop, we run the fourth triangle, turn, reflect, turn, and this is again the starting position. Now we have the tetrahedron and overlapping crystals, creating cross points, which can be connected. And in the perspective view, you can see that a cube structure is newly formed just by running the tetrahedron, right? This is the space cube structure. And now we can say that time does not represent the fourth space measurement, but the first. Because firstly, consciousness is traveling through the time cube structure, this way constructing the space cube structure. And now it is also possible to run the tetrahedron through the space cube structure. Yes, this is the starting position. Then reflect, turn, reflect, turn. Now we can let it run. This is the way consciousness is running the tetrahedron from the inside, and we can recognize that this is also a rhythm to play. This algorithm could be a 16th groove with doubles in the offbeat, right? And if we now watch the running from the perspective view, it is nice to see how the walls are following the cube structure. Yes, this is the starting position in the perspective view. Now, reflect, turn, and the walls are running beautiful in the cube structure. Here we are in the starting position. And if we down dimension everything except the movement of the eye, then we can see the reflection movement. Interestingly, on YouTube you can find a video from Mike Morales called That's Not From Around Here, about light appearances in the night sky bridging vastly huge distances by proceeding a reflection movement. In the visible universe, these appearances definitely are more complex, but the type of movement is the same. Now, if the geometrical time structure is existing, then we can compare second and meter, and due to the light speed we even are able to set the Planck second equal to the Planck length. And the result is a difference of 10 to the 9. This is summarizing in 3 dimensions to a difference of 10 to the 27. And this means that if consciousness is moving through the time cube structure as spiritual universe, then the spiritual universe is multi-times bigger than the visible universe, which is based on the space cube structure. So the time cube structure should be researched, and now we can go backwards, starting with the visible universe. This is made of the spheres of life, which are interpreted as dots. The sphere of life is made of dodecahedrons. The dodecahedron is made of cubes. The cube is made of tetrahedrons through the Planck diamonds. The tetrahedron is made of Planck lines. The Planck lines are electromagnetic and are made of consciousness energy pushing against itself through resonance oscillations. So this was the presentation for today. In this spirit, I hope you could take something for you. I wish you a good day, and if we don't see us anymore, good evening and good night.